in the first place?
We keep on wasting our time in Nigeria. We keep on wasting resources. We keep on romancing and embracing the incompetence and inefficiencies in the public sector. We keep on wasting our precious time as a nation. The truth is, and I bear repeating it again, we've wasted trillions of naira, tens of billions of dollars trying to fix those refineries since 1999. Obasanjo did the right thing in 2007 when he privatized those refineries to the Blue Star Consortium led by Aliko Dangote, Femi Otodola, and the rest of the corporate czars. Under my country, under Mele Kyari, we wasted 4 trillion naira. And of course, it has always been said that that thing was not revived. They only did it to be a blending plant. The truth is, and I still repeat it, those refineries will never work under the public sector control of the NNPC. For those refineries to work, we must do the same thing we did at the LMA petrochemical plant. The federal government must sell down 80% of the NNPC shareholding in those refineries to deep-pocketed private sector investors, 30%. Then the rest to Nigerians and list them on the floor of the exchange. Value those refineries the way it is. And also let them into an HPV from NNPC portfolio. Get core investors that will take 30%. Sell 50% to Nigerians, list on the floor of the exchange. And I tell you the truth, within the next 1 year, those refineries will begin to operate at optimum capacity. They started this own refinery in 2014, 2015. Today, this largest single train refinery in the whole world, working efficiently, no stories, no games. So, it's the same story. If we don't adopt these steps, Obasanjo saw this. Obasanjo is a very strong man. He saw what happened in 8 years as president. How hundreds of millions of dollars was wasted, and he decided to privatize it. And you remember he said he's not even offered it to Shell and Bishop, and they refused. And we got Dangote and the other corporate czars were willing to take over those refineries. Yeah, for whatever reason, reversed it. And since that time, we are still on this roller coaster, wasting trillions of naira, reviving something that we know will never work under the public sector criminality and bureaucracy. The only public corporation that is working efficiently is Nigerian Natural Gas, because it is owned 51% by private investors and 49% by NNPC. Therefore, it is shielded from the public sector shenanigans and incompetencies and corruptions. And that is why LNG is not working efficiently up to 100% capacity, because NNPC could not supply them with gas.
So we actually see the state in which these facilities are, so to speak. But then one would want to ask the question, do you think we'll be able to get investors that will be willing to take up this project and revamp it properly and make its operations more optimized, looking at the state that they are in?
Yes. Warri and Port Harcourt, as they are, will get maximum investors. The only refinery that may not get investors is the Kaduna refinery. Basically, it's going to be using the heavy Venezuelan crude. We don't have it in Nigeria. And the pipeline that transports crude all the way to Kaduna have all been compromised. So, Kaduna refinery should actually be scrapped and just turned into just a depot. For the Warri, 125,000 barrels capacity a day. And the 2 trains in Port Harcourt, 210,000 barrels. Let me tell you what will happen. Why it will become an investor delight to buy those refineries. Those refineries have existing facility. To build to collocate the brand new 160,000 barrels a day refinery will take about $8 billion. Because of the already existing facilities within Warri and Port Harcourt, it will cost half that amount of money to install a brand new. So whoever is buying them is buying them as they are. But the person will utilize all the facilities within those houses to expand capacity. We said this thing. The only way those refineries will work, and again, with more suggestions on how we can actually do a PPP on those refineries to bring down energy costs in Nigeria. It is an example. Those refineries have a local allocation to it from NNPC of 445,000 barrels crude every day. We don't even know where they take it today. Basically, what will happen if we decide to do is to be very creative, we will value those assets, like I said. Put them in a pocket, get a car investor, 30%, sell 50% Nigeria, use them on the exchange. Let me tell you what will happen. We can decide today to use it to moderate energy cost in Nigeria. We can say, we know that to produce a barrel of the crude oil costs about $30, $31, $35 a barrel in Nigeria because of our inefficiencies. So we will tell whoever is going to buy it, under this special arrangement, you're going to be selling petroleum products to Nigeria at cost plus margin of not more than 30%. We know to refine a barrel of crude oil is about $10. $35 plus $10. Multiply it by the value of the value chain of the crude. 159 liters of other byproducts, white petroleum products, PMS, HGO, paraffin, and the rest of them. Let me tell you what will happen. In this special arrangement, we will set up what we call petroleum bulk purchasing company that will be owned by Ipman, Moman, and all the private sector of within oil and gas sector. If we collocate 160,000 barrels, the private sector investor, we will have enough refined white petroleum products. People out of that place. It's not your way that no matter the cost and fluctuation and volatility of crude oil or refined product price in the global market, we will not sell petroleum product in Nigeria more than $600 per liter.
Well, you seem to have all the solutions mapped out. We hope that, government will be able to take up this initiative. We are hoping to have some sort of energy security of the country. Thank you so much, Nnaemeka Obiareri, for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me, my brother.
Of course. Away from that, President Bola Tinubu's transmission of the Rivers State Appropriation Bill to the National Assembly has sparked reactions from the people of Rivers. While some have welcomed the move, others argue that the president's executive intervention in the state's affairs is becoming excessive. News Central's Biola Festus spoke with residents and stakeholders and now brings us their perspectives.
On Thursday, President Bola Tinubu officially submitted the 2025 Appropriation Bill for Rivers State to the National Assembly. This follows the suspension of both the state's House of Assembly and the governor in March. Although unprecedented in Nigeria's political history, some stakeholders in Rivers State argue that the president's decision was necessary to keep the state functioning in the absence of elected leadership.
The state must operate with a budget. And the National Assembly already has set up a committee to oversight the functions and activities of the sole administrator. So for us to move forward, we must have a budget. Because spending vast money without a budget means recklessness. And at the end of the day, it will lead to embezzlements. So that's why the president felt it was necessary for him to present the budget on behalf of Rivers State.
Constitutionally, the president brought in a sole administrator because of what happened in Rivers State. So whatever the sole administrator does, as far as it is to protect lives and property, as far as it's to give governance to our people, it's okay.
However, civil society organizations in the state have expressed concern that the people may be denied meaningful participation in public hearings on the bill.
In the state assembly where they make law, people come for public hearing, and they have first day of the hearing about the bill. People study it and make inputs, and it represents the interests of diverse views of people from the state. But in this case, how will Rivers people be represented there? Is it that it is just the politicians at the National Assembly who will say, yes, we want this or we don't want that? These are our concern.
Suspended Governor Siminalayi Fubara had initially proposed a 1.188 trillion naira budget amid the ongoing political crisis. Interestingly, the president's newly submitted budget of 1.48 trillion naira surpasses that figure by more than 200 billion naira.
We saw the margin in space of the amount. The last budget by the governor, his budget was around 1.3 trillion naira. One will be also forced to ask. Now, within the space of 2 months, 348 billion naira was added to the budget. Is it another case of padding? We don't know.
The budget proposed is a little bit higher than what the suspended governor did. Probably the technical team that set up the budget may have sat down, looked at other infrastructural programs to be implemented. And I don't think anything is wrong with that, because we need to move River State forward. We need to carry out other capital projects.
Key questions persist in River State. Who advised the president on the budgetary allocations? Who authored the bill? And what technical criteria were used in its preparation? While the president may exercise some discretionary powers, stakeholders insist that transparency and accountability remain the fundamental in a democratic society. In River State for News Central, Biola Festus.
To discuss this, we're joined by founder Albino Foundation, Jake Pele. I hope I got that right. And of course, a legal practitioner, Henry Ekene. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure.
All right. So I'll start with Jake. Now, for you, is President Tinubu's presentation of that appropriation bill of Rivers State to the National Assembly constitutional or unconstitutional?
I think I would start by saying that our president has made history by becoming the very first president, maybe in the world, that presented a state budget, having presented a national budget. This time around is a state budget that is in crisis, that some of their action has thrown the state into an emergency rule situation. That history is not a good history. I think he's on the side of on the wrong side of history by presenting a budget of a state that I believe did not go through proper mechanism for budget formulation or allocation. Secondly, that budget is a 6 months budget that is twice what the suspended governor had presented. Former presented 1.1 trillion naira budget for 2025, a whole year. What we have seen presented by the president is 1.481 trillion naira for 6 months. I think for those who don't know, that's the situation. So if you double that amount, would have been talking about over close to 3 trillion if we're to go for 1 year. So that's the situation. Is it constitutional? I think Kine, my friend, is a lawyer.
Of course.
But in my own personal opinion, is not constitutionally. Is not constitutional in my own opinion. However, it's unfortunate that this is happening to our dear state. We have become a state that is being tossed here and there. Every democratic puzzle is being played in River State.
All right, Jake.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, permit me to just bring Henry into this so that we have a legal perspective to it. I mean, he's a legal practitioner. So, Henry, now, justifying the submission, the president cited Regulation 4, subsection 2F of the Emergency Rule 2025 provisions, which actually states that the federal legislative has the oversight of state finances during emergency rule. So how is it not unconstitutional by what Jake has said?
Yes, thank you. An action, a procedure will be unconstitutional as far as it is not provided in the Constitution and not even supported by any reference to any provision of the Constitution. It's to that extent that such action will be appropriate to say it's unconstitutional. And again, where there is no power vested by any individual or authority by the Constitution to carry out an action, then that action purportedly carried out will be unconstitutional. So put these two together, it will mean that a budget or an appropriation bill, more appropriately, of a state to be caused to be laid by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not being so provided in the Constitution, the President himself not being so vested with such power would be unconstitutional.
Okay, so I mean, this
Secondly,
yeah, Harry, that's okay. Okay, I think
the procedure for.
All right,
Harry. I
Harry.
was just saying that clearly, maybe to answer the
Harry, just stay with me for a while. I'll go back to Jake. I mean, for the National Assembly, by law, you know, we've seen that the federal legislative arm can't take over the legislature of a state. So why, by law anyway, so why is it that the federal executive arm cannot assume the responsibility of a state executive in a situation whereby a state of emergency has been declared?
Again, like I said, I'm glad that Ken has elucidated on that point of legality. You know, yes, the State Assembly can take over the function of a state that is on emergency rule, but they are laid down constitutional provision and clauses that they have to follow and activate. If you go back to even the process at the National Assembly that was used and the issue of voice vote to get to where we are, you will notice that the provision or the procedure that the National Assembly laid out that they were going to follow throughout the course of this emergency rule have not been followed at all. They tried to constitute what looks like a more or less like a charade of a committee. Those committees, I don't know whether they've been able to sit for one or two times, and one of them is the Professor Julius Nyembere committee, which a man that I respect, you know, but I don't think they are allowed to do their work, you know. They invited the sole administrator to appear before them, and the first invitation, he didn't even respond. Eventually, he appeared, and the whole thing looked like a stage managed, rather melodramatic situation, you know. But that's where we are. The House of Assembly has the right to save democracy by probably returning the budget back to the presidency or not approving it. And that would show us a proper check and balances, which have not been existing in the relationship between the legislative arm and the executive arm. It looks to me like a rubber stamp House of Assembly, National House of Assembly, you know. So that said, people like me, I have very little confidence that they will do anything or overturn what the president have done. Okay. You know, and the more this happens, the more we make mockery of democracy.
All right, so I go back to Henry now. If your position is that there is no provision under the 1999 Constitution that empowers the president to present a state budget to the National Assembly, and there's a possibility that we might not see a revocation of this particular appropriation bill from the legislature, of course, coming from the president, how do you think we can still uphold democracy and still have the state being run most especially having this budget being passed, funds are available for the sole administrator to actually do what it needs to do while being in power?
Yes, and clearly I've said, I think I need to repeat this, that the action is unconstitutional, and the National Assembly, even when considering the provision of Section 11, subsection 4, that vests the National Assembly to consider to take proceedings of Rivers State House of Assembly or any House of Assembly, would have been where the executive will take the step of causing to lay an appropriation bill before the National Assembly. So there is no provision in our Constitution that envisaged a situation where the governor of a state would have been removed from office, or any situation at any time that there would not be a governor in the state. Because in any circumstance, according to the Constitution, that there wouldn't be a governor, the deputy governor would become governor automatically. So there wouldn't have been a situation where there won't be a governor to lay an appropriation bill. That is the only person, absolutely, an exclusive power vested by the Constitution in the governor to cause to lay an appropriation bill before the House of Assembly. Where the House of Assembly is unable to convene a sitting, and it appears that the provision of Section 11 sub 4 has to be evoked, then it means that the governor of the state would have laid the appropriation bill or caused such to be laid before the National Assembly. So completely is an aberration. Now, I had suggested and proposed earlier that the unconstitutional sole administrator, so imposed and forced on Rivers State by Mr. President, should have been funded by Mr. President either from the Federation account or from some fund within the presidency for running the affairs that the President has asked him to come do, which primary mandate was to restore on, if you like, in quotes, broken down law and order in Rivers State, which never existed. Okay. But not to come to build infrastructure, not to come to run government, as it were, as if the President has become the elected governor of Rivers State. So this purported appropriation law for Rivers State is not constitutional.
All right, Henry. Thank you, Henry Akine, and of course, Jacob Pele. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the news.
Let me say.
We might not.
My dear, let me just
have
say this
the time.
In 30 seconds. In 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Look, I believe. Yes, I'm using this opportunity to call on everybody, the civil society, everybody, to hold this administrator accountable. He's squandering the money, the resources of Rivers people, and one day he will get out of that seat and he will be called to account for every penny that he has squandered.
All right, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We're now going to break on the news. When we return, security operatives arrest 20 suspects for allegedly hacking JAMB's computer-based test server. We'll bring you the details in a short while. Join us again. Many thanks for staying with us. We now tell you that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved a fresh round of federal appointments across key national institutions. Former Senate President Ken Nnamani has been appointed chairman of the Nigerian Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, while ex-Edo Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu has been named Director General of the Nigerian Institute of Sports. Other appointees include Omobolanle Akinyemi Obe as DG of the National Senior Citizen Center and Dr. Segun Aina as Director General of the Academic Staff College of Nigeria. Also, Senator Anyim Pius Anyim has been appointed Chairman of the National Merit Award Committee, and Honorable Asabe Vilita Bashir has been named Director General of the National Center for Women Development. Additional appointments cover the Nigerian São Tomé Authority, the NAIC, FMBN, and the National Population Commission. Now we head to Akwa Ibom State, where Governor Umeno has directed his commissioners and appointees to either defect with him to the All Progressives Congress or resign from his cabinet. The governor issued the directive during a state executive council meeting, confirming weeks of speculation about his defection. He emphasized that while his appointees are not obligated to join him in the APC, they cannot remain in office while belonging to another party. Eno has said his decision stems from internal crisis within the PDP, which have made it difficult to guarantee a smooth electoral process. Despite his affection for the PDP, he stated that technical issues at the national level could cost the party electoral victories, even when popular support is assured. To react to this, we're joined by a former publicity secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Diran Odeyemi. Thank you so much, Mr. Odeyemi, for coming around.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be with you this evening.
Now, as a former executive of the PDP, how do you feel yet again that the party is about to lose one of its own and is actually dragging everyone along with him?
Yes, nobody will feel happy about the defection of its principal officer and stakeholders. Nobody will be happy to lose them. But then the main question remains, in whose interest are they cross-carpeting? If you are saying you want to go and support the president and you don't want to remain in PDP so that you will not be seen as a plain anti-party activity, the question is, what is the attraction in the presidency activities or its achievement? He didn't state that. We all know, we are all politicians, we know the truth. The truth is, he wants to contest for a second term and he's afraid of the almighty federal power being used by, previous administration and he thought perhaps that will be used against him. And he wants to remain in power. And it's very sad because it appears there is no principle, there is no discipline in the politics that we practice in this country. On what basis? And look at it. The indications are there that he's not even popular within his own private room. That is when you talk of the cabinet. If you now want to force the cabinet to follow you to the party, because according to him, he said he heard that some people are not pleased and may not want to follow him. That's an indication that you are taking a decision that is not popular even among the people that are having you. Asking them to resign is a threat, which I don't believe should be the outcome or should be the result of you trying to convince them. You cannot force them to follow you into APC because you are the governor. It's on principle and it doesn't show that the kind of democracy we practice in this country is based on principle or any logical reason.
Okay, so you said he wants to contest for a re-election and is looking for securities. But then the governor has come out to cite the internal crisis in PDP, saying he cannot guarantee seamless election victory in the state for the party. So is the problem about him? Is the problem about his governance? Or is the problem about a party, a PDP, that seems not to have that political structure to actually back his ambition in the state?
We have a proverb in my area that you give a dog a bad name so as it could be killed. If you are talking about the secretaryship and the crisis in PDP, then we have two questions to ask. Number one, the issue of secretary shouldn't be the reason why you want to leave the party. Because whether anybody likes it or not, by November, December, this NWC and the entire party structure will be changed. We are going to have our national convention by December. So the issue of secretary, the chairman, or whatever, will be right for good. So that's not an excuse. And another thing is, if you are not part of a solution to a problem in PDP, how dare do you think you are not fit to APC that you want to go and join? If I were in APC, my simple answer would have been, people who cannot put right their home cannot come to other people's home with the intention or with the belief that we should trust them, that they have assets or they are bringing anything good to the party. Because on what basis will you now say because there is crisis? Why don't you stay in that party and be part of the solution rather than jumping ship and say you want to go and join APC? It's not reasonable. It's not logical. It's lack of principle.
Do you think there is enough loyalty and unity among the top wigs in the PDP to be able to draw some sort of revival in order to change the situation in the party and bring about stability in it? Do you think they're united?
That the governors are talking now is an indication that there is hope for peace. that the stakeholders have set up a reconciliation committee headed by Bukola Saraki is an indication that they have started talking. If all these moves are there, if there is preparation towards having a convention of the party, whereby new officers will be elected very soon, then why will anybody say he wants to leave the party and go and join another party? It's just like I keep saying, it is complete lack of good democratic norms. Because in an ideal situation, I even heard the governor saying, even if he contests from the Zero Party, we will win. I challenge him to resign because you cannot carry PDP's votes to APC and remain as governor. Let's test your popularity right now. Resign as the governor, then let INEC conduct another election. Then we know whether you are that popular to win an election. So as far as I'm concerned, there is crisis in virtually all political parties in Nigeria. And as a matter of fact, there will continue to be a crisis in any organization where people contest from one position or the other. It is the ability to manage that crisis that showcase the strongness in a party and in democracy. Even now, say because there is crisis, we are running away. Where you are going to, does that mean that there is absolute peace there? No. There's no absolute peace in any political party in Nigeria, and there cannot be, because these political parties are run by human beings. And human beings are so difficult that, they always want to get something by all means and at all costs. Okay. And this is why there is no principle in the democracy that we run in Nigeria. Political parties have become a ladder through which people just climb to get to authority or to get position. Not that they are principled or they are doing it in the interest of the mass.
All right. Well, the APC will probably disagree with you that there is a crisis within its ranks. But then, Diron Odeyemi, thank you so much for talking to us on the news.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. Let's go on a short break. When we return, we will talk education and bring you some other stories in a short while. Don't go away. Many thanks for being there. A bit of education stories now. Security operatives have arrested 20 individuals for allegedly hacking the computer-based Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination conducted by the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board in 2025. The arrests were carried out in Abuja by operatives from the Department of State Services and the Nigeria Police Force. Reports indicate that the suspects are part of a wider syndicate believed to involve over 100 people, specializing in hacking the servers of examination bodies such as JAMB and the National Examinations Council. According to security sources, the suspects have confessed to deliberately sabotaging the computer-based testing system, allegedly to undermine JAMB's credibility and discourage the use of CBT in future examinations conducted by NECO and the West African Examinations Council. Away from that, stakeholders from across the African continent are calling for stronger leadership, inclusive policies, and sustained investment in human capital. This was the central message at the EU Global Excellence Summit held in Lagos, where participants convened to outline key priorities for sustainable development and the realization of the African Union's Agenda 2063. News Central Siwesianyo reports.
The AU Global Excellence Summit in Lagos brings together leaders from government, civil society, and the private sector to explore practical strategies for Africa's development. The event is focused on a range of issues including economic reform, digital transformation, youth and women's empowerment, and institutional transparency.
We are just trying to bring together an Africa that is united, building a more informed community in Africa, whereby people of excellence will be able to connect and build a meaningful relationship and collaborate into seeing Africa successful in the ventures that it is into. And also we are celebrating excellence for people who have done amazingly well in their various sectors also.
The importance of innovation and regional cooperation in addressing persistent challenges such as unemployment, inequality, and limited access to infrastructure also comes to the fore.
It is, of course, the importance of women empowerment to support women in business. And for that, you have to start off with the foundation. A foundation is living in a safe and caring environment. And that's why as well issues like gender-based violence has to be crossed out. Because how can you get a proper functional person if you are living in an environment where you are being threatened by gender-based violence or even worse, trafficking?
Participants highlight the role of technology in driving intra-African trade, improving public service delivery, and strengthening governance systems.
I'm excited and happy that we've been able to start to discuss things that matter for Africa. I highlighted key areas, that is communication, transportation, tourism, and our arts and culture. How do we use arts and culture, our music industry, to connect Africa? And those are the low-hanging fruits that we can really use to truly build on the Africa that we want.
As Africa looks to the future, stakeholders at this summit agreed that progress will require inclusive leadership, stronger institutions, and sustained action to ensure development is measurable and felt across all communities. In Lagos, for News Central, Segun Aina.
A break we'll do here on the news. When we return, we'll bring you health and other stories. Stay with us. To health matters now as the world commemorates the International Day to End Obstetric Fistula. Advocates in Nigeria are raising awareness about a condition that continues to affect hundreds of thousands of women, particularly in rural and underserved communities. The Central Sagir Ibrahim reports on efforts by the Bashir Foundation for Fistula and Women's Health to drive awareness and improve access to treatment.
Obstetric fistula is a hole caused by prolonged and obstructed labor, often without timely medical intervention. It leaves affected women leaking urine or feces, a condition that leads to social rejection and deep emotional trauma. Data shows that over 200,000 women in Nigeria currently live with obstetric fistula, yet 90% of these cases can be corrected with a simple surgical procedure. Unfortunately, poor awareness, a culture of silence and stigma continue to prevent many women from seeking treatment. This is why the Bashir Foundation for Fistula and Women's Health staged this walk in Abuja to call attention to the burden and demand urgent action.
We have this mindset that it is mostly for the Muslims, or it's only in the north. This has to be highly corrected. The awareness has been producing good results. I mean, we have commitments from various federal governments and state governments at various levels, but then it still hasn't really stopped the fistula. We haven't gotten to where we want to get to.
Most of the victims are, they are skeptical, keeping it to themselves. And by so doing, they just, die in silence. I encourage them to come out if you have the challenge, come out, because most people believe you pay for treatment, whereas the treatments are for free.
It's treatable, one, and it's repairable. But we have trained surgeons who are being trained for them to repair.
Among those lending their voice to the campaigns is Precious Ekele. She lived with the condition for 6 years and endured 2 failed surgeries. Today, she says she has regained her dignity thanks to support from the foundation.
I've actually gone through this whole thing. It has affected my life in every sense. Like, I have practically withdrawn. But then Bashir Foundation came in, paid for the surgery, and I'm fine. I'm actually very fine now. Even though I'm still nursing my wound, but my feces have been passing through the proper channel.
Nigeria is reported to have one of the highest burdens of obstetric fistula in the world. Health experts say the condition is entirely preventable with access to quality maternal health care, timely interventions during childbirth, and continuous education for women, especially in rural communities. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
In North Africa, for the second consecutive Friday, hundreds of demonstrators flooded the streets of Tripoli, demanding the resignation of Libya's UN-recognized government of national unity. The protests, driven by growing public frustration, are aimed squarely at Prime Minister Abdulhamid Biba and his administration. Citizens cite deepening political gridlock, deteriorating security, and worsening living conditions as reasons for their unrest. Chants and banners filled the capital as demonstrators called for new leadership and urgent reforms. The latest protests highlight the mounting pressure on the transitional government to deliver on its promises and steer Libya towards stability. Next is sports news.
And in sport, the Director General of the National Sports Commission, Bukola Olopade, has assured that sports facilities in Ogun State will be maintained through proper and consistent utilization. Speaking during a facility tour in the state, Olopade emphasized that active use of the infrastructure will ensure their longevity and reduce deterioration. He noted that the Commission's approach focuses on regular engagement and scheduled sporting events to keep the facilities functional and in good condition. The DG also praised the state's investment in sports infrastructure and called for collaboration with local stakeholders to promote grassroots development.
The best way to maintain any facility of this nature is through utilization. Obviously, the political will has to be there to be able to tell people if you want to come and play tennis here and you're not a tennis player for the state or for the nation, you have to pay. You know, you must use it as revenue generation. You want to do your pool party, why not use this pool, but you have to pay, you know, and raise money for the state. But for those who are gifted, who are talented, who want to become tennis players or swimmers or handball players, the facility has to be open to them. And obviously there must be a concerted, intentional effort of cleaning them.
Edo State clinched gold in the women's T20 cricket event at the 22nd National Sports Festival in Abeokuta, defeating Lagos State by 8 wickets in a dominant final. Remaining unbeaten throughout the tournament, Edo cemented their status as Nigeria's leading women's cricket side. Lagos, after choosing to bat, managed just 58 runs in 19.3 overs. Kendi Abdulkadri's 31-run stand was the lone resistance as Edo bowler dismantled the lineup. Peace Hussein starred with 3 wickets for 8 runs, while vice-captain Lucky Pieti conceded only 2 runs in 4 overs. Captain Favour Isegbe's tactical brilliance rounded off a clinical performance. The emphatic win signals Edo's growing influence and commitment to nurturing talent in Nigerian women's cricket. And now to football, defending champions Rivers Angels secured the spot in the 2025 President Federation Cup final with a 1-0 victory over Ibom Angels at the Eyimba Stadium, Aba. Aminat Folorunsho scored the decisive goal in the 63rd minute after sustained pressure from the Port Harcourt side. Earlier, Ifeoma Polinos and Patience Otubo came close, but Ibom Angels goalkeeper Augustine Dixon kept them at bay with multiple saves. Despite being reduced to 10 players late in the match due to Otubo's red card, Rivers Angels held on to advance. They will face Nasarawa Amazons in the final after the Solid Babes overcame Edo Queens 2-0 in the other semi-final. Still talking football, Mamelodi Sundowns were denied a vital first leg win in the CAF Champions League final after a last-minute equalizer for Pyramids FC forced a 1-1 draw at Loftus Versfeld on Saturday. Lucas Ribeiro's 53rd minute strike gave the Brazilians the lead after a scrappy goal-mad scramble. Despite controlling large parts of the second half, Sundowns adopted a cautious approach, trying to protect their narrow advantage. But Pyramids struck in the stoppage time through Walid El Kati, who headed in Mohannad Lashin's cross after Sundowns failed to clear their lines. Earlier, both sides had chances with goalkeepers Ahmed El Shenawi and Ronwen Williams making key saves. The decisive second leg will be played in Cairo on 1st of June, with Pyramids holding the away goal edge. And to wrap up sports updates, Sunderland sealed a dramatic return to the Premier League after 8 years, defeating Sheffield United 2-1 in the Championship playoff final at Wembley. Tyrese Campbell gave the Bardes a first-half lead, but Eliza Mayenda equalized after the break. The defining moment came in the 95th minute when 19-year-old Tommy Watson fired home a stunning winner from the edge of the box. It marked the first time in 15 years the team had come from behind to win a championship final. Watson's last touch in his Sunderland shirt delivered an unforgettable promotion-clinching goal. And that wraps it up on Sports Update, and Favour Itwa.
That's all at this hour on the news, but before we go, we'll look at our major stories again. NNPC has announced a planned shutdown of the Port Harcourt refining company for maintenance. Security operatives have arrested 20 suspects for allegedly hacking JAMB's computer-based test server. We also told you that hundreds of Libyan protesters have flooded the streets of Tripoli demanding resignation of Prime Minister Biba. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Do watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times 274, Arvo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Deacon Obanjo.